G'day guys, my name's Brendan and welcome back to On Point Adventures. One thing we have to do as anglers a heck of a lot is re-spool our reels. Now when I say re-spool, I'm referring to putting new line on the reel. But part of that complication is also withdrawing the line off the reel or de-spooling the reel. Okay, now I'm going to bring you to you in this particular video how I both take the line off very easily and put the line on even easier. Here we go. So what better reel to show you than the Penn Fathom Electric? Now this may look like the line's beautiful on there, however on our last session I got caught up in a bit of reef, which meant I dragged a whole heap of this particular line through that reef and damaged it. How much? I don't know. Is it worth the risk? Absolutely not. So on this reel, we've got about 750 meters of 40-pound line, which we need to take off. Now to anyone standing there and stripping that off manually is an absolute pain in the bum. So how do we do it a little easier? Let me show you. I'll put this down. With the help of a simple cordless drill, we've put a big bolt through the center of an old spool, a nut on this side here. So now all we have to do is hit the go button. And that in itself is going to spool the reel. That's going to quickly wind that line off the reel onto this spool to then, as I said, empty it, I guess, if you wish, and get ready for re-spooling. The best thing about this when you want to, I guess, do another reel is all you have to do is get a Stanley knife, cut across the top, like so, and that there then takes all the line back off, springs it off, and you're left with a clean spool. But what about spooling the reel? What do we use for that? For so long we've been taught about sticking the old screwdriver through the center of the spool, having someone there thumbing it while you're winding, and that's a pain in the ass because A, you got to find someone else, and B, you can never get that really consistent pressure. Now when you're fishing big fish, it's important that you get consistent pressure through the whole reel, so therefore you don't end up with wavy bits of braid halfway down the spool. I know what you're thinking, you've seen that before, haven't you? I know I have. Anyway, so we need a system that we can do by ourselves which spools that line exceptionally consistent. This is what I've come up with. I jumped online and I found what is called the Penn HD Linewinder. Now this is quite an interesting apparatus because it stores really nice and flat like this. However, we can put any spool we want on this and it works absolutely perfectly. The best thing about this is, as you'll see behind the cones here, which goes on either side of the spool, we have a carbon tex drag washer in there, so a carbon drag washer, onto a nylon drag washer, onto another washer here, and then onto our spool tensioner. And that's on both sides. We've also got on this side behind this cone, as you can see here, a spring. So what that does is that offers, I guess, a load that pushes back and keeps everything nice and consistent. There's that word again, consistent. But how do we set this up? It's this simple. We spread the legs like so, okay? So I'll put it out this way so you can see. So we've spread the legs, and as you can see, they're also sprung. We then put our spool onto here, however wide it might be, and then all we have to do is put that through that hole there. So that hole there in that arm, and then this here automatically closes on whatever size spool we're using. Okay, so as you can see, if we've got a small spool, it's sitting small. That then just sits either flat on a bench if you're using lighter lines, or if you're using heavier lines, what I like to do is I like to sash clamp or use some form of clamp over the top of the Penn logo there onto the bench, and that holds that rock solid on the table for any type of heavy spooling. But anyway, don't let me just talk about it. Let's rip some line off that reel and put some line on, and let me show you how easy this works. Here we go. Okay, so now we've got a couple of wraps there on the spool, and we've got our reel here in free spool. All we're going to do is hit that go button. Okay, we'll actually put her in high speed. That's how good this is. Now, as I said, you got to make sure your reel's in free spool. But as you can see there, that's ripping line off that reel now at a rate of knots. So what we'll do, we'll get all that off. I know, what a simple little system, eh? But we'll get all that line off, and then I'm going to show you how we make this spooler work. That's where the real fun starts. Okay, so now that we've got our line on the spooling station connected to our reel, all we need to do is power up the Penn Electric, which is as simple as just holding down both red buttons. As you can see, I've already done it. You want to make sure that your counter's on 0. If your counter is not on 0, just hold the mode button until it clears and zeroes out. But what you'll notice is when it's on 0, we can hit the go button or the go dial here and nothing's happening. And that's because the Penn reel will not retrieve if it is zeroed out. So what we need to do is just tap the mode button again. Okay. And what you're going to see up on that screen there, I hope the camera picks it up, is it says override. And you want the red override symbol up, because what that's telling you is you're going to override the 0. So all we're going to do for the first 50 meters, and we're going to count our colors, is we're just going to have it set on number 2. Now number 2 is very slow, as you can see coming off that spool there. But what that's going to enable or allow the reel to do is really, really have that line go on super tight. But most importantly, we're going to see whether or not there's any imperfections in that line. So let's keep that going for 50 meters and then I'll see you back. So now we've got that 50 meters on, we can crank this right up. There we go. We're now doing about 1100 revs a minute. You can hear that reel's really, really going now, but that's winding that line on super, super straight. But most importantly, I've got this, tension, so it's going on really, really nice and tight as well. That's the beauty of this particular line winding or spooling device. So anyway, what we'll do is, I'm not going to bore you with winding on close to 750 meters of line, which isn't going to take long on this electric. But once it's finished, we'll get back to you and we'll conclude this episode. Right, so there we are, guys. We're completely finished there. All we need to do is cut the line like that. And as you can see there, we've got a perfectly spooled Penn Fathom 30 electric. Guys, this is the same sort of spooling process with any reel, be it spin, electric, overhead, it doesn't matter. One, you just got to wind. Today I took the lazy way out and re-spooled my lazy reel. But all right, guys, I hope this was helpful. I hope this gives you an insight on how you can do things a whole heap easier, but most importantly, more consistent. Because the more consistent and the better your line is on that reel, the better it will perform overall. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next episode. Catch you later.